for deals all over. Let's see. Let me look through. Let me start scrolling through. Is there still people coming on?
Yeah, we'll let them in as they come on, but we can get started for sure because Jonah's got such amazing content that we want to give him as much time as possible and a good chance for Q&A because, you know, as you and I know, Corey, this guy's been a mentor to us and just been a dear friend. So, I mean, if we could share as much time with him as possible, I think it'd be awesome.
All right, let me check the chat. So nobody needs anything? I know there's a lot of people out here that needs money.
Yeah, I mean,
funding.
I know everybody's probably sick of hearing me say it, but I'm looking for a private money partner for some of these leads because we get a lot of leads over here on Maui, but a lot of them we pass up just because it's a little too tight to pull off with hard money. But we can do a lot more flips if we had a private money partner.
Hey, Greg, I think we'll be able to make it. Sorry, Greg. You must have cut out for a second. But hey, let's talk offline. I got an introduction for you.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, and then just last one is
private money.
Another shout out to Casey again because we closed that Kauai deal today, and Casey and Jordan were a huge help.
Volume on. I'm not turning my volume on. I'm talking to you.
Perfect. That's what it's all about. Just doing deals together, helping each other out. So
I got some stuff as per usual. I'm needy. So one thing, I think the good deeds portion, Kimohai and Tristan, I just want to honor them again for last week. That was so cool. Just kind of invite us into their journey. I got to connect with them outside of the coffee talk this week. We're going to be talking about potentially some Oxford houses on the island and kind of a strategy to get going there to help some people on the islands, not necessarily island, but stoked to kind of see where that goes and help them if that kind of can work in Hawaii, see if we can crack that nut and help some recovering addicts there. The other thing is we're going hot and heavy. We just landed a really cool funding deal and we're going hot and heavy in Florida. So I'm going to take a little vacation, like I said, in Maui and be working on where we're at and kind of networking in Florida. And then I'm going to basically move my family down there for 3 months. And I got to buy 60 or 70 doors in Florida next year. So coming into Florida, hot and heavy. So I heard some guys on here in Florida. I'm going to be in Northern Florida. I think I'm going to be, looks like I'm probably going to be staying in Daytona Beach with the family and kind of all over Florida. So I'm looking to get connected down there over the next couple months and looking for all sorts of deals. So I'll put my stuff in the chat. If anybody has any connections for me in Florida, would love to know them. So.
Perfect. Nice, Jared. Okay. How many doors again are you going to be looking for?
Yeah, so the outreach team down there, basically they want to open 100 doors next year, and they want me to do a majority of those. They really like kind of our business plan, really how we love on them and how we manage the houses. So they've kind of opened it up for our market. They want us to pour in there, but yeah, 50, 60 doors. We buy really nice houses. Northern Florida, depending on the market, our price point's going to be anywhere from 200 to 600,000 on those. And we're looking for 4 or 5 bedroom plus houses, 2+ bathroom houses. We sleep a lot of adults in our houses, so larger houses. They've got to be close to public transportation, things like that. But yeah, we're looking for a lot of doors in Florida next year.
Awesome. Well, Ash in the chat is saying that he knows some people in Daytona. So, and there's a bunch of people in Florida right now. So yeah, I think hopefully you can get some help for you out there. Start seeing some nice deals.
That's awesome. Can we also ask, I don't know how to say, Chidi Bear about the Las Vegas $42 million ARV? Tell us a little bit about that project.
Yeah. So this is actually.
First of all, how do we say your name correctly?
Yeah, my name is Shadibri, and this is actually one of my partner's projects. So she has more detail. I'm actually trying to get her on the call, and unfortunately, I really wanted to get on the call to explain it. But hopefully once she arrives, I'll be able to, go into more detail about it. But lots of funding involved. She needs a partner to close the deal. A hard money lender in Nevada was able to capture the deal. It's worth, and then she just needs down payment a little bit of down payment help with that, and it's a great profitable deal. It's worth over $42 million after it's repaired. So brokerages, garage, parking garages, lots of acquisitions there. So hopefully when she
That's
gets on the call,
awesome.
we'll be able to go in detail.
Is it like
Are
a
you in
commercial?
Vegas right now?
No, I'm actually based in New York.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
based in
Okay.
New York.
So
Yeah.
we're Alex and I are in Vegas right now. We're going to be taking a look at a property tomorrow as well. So if it's in Vegas, let us know. We may be able to go swing by. And in terms of hard money, Alex can chat with you guys and see what we can do to help you out. So no problem at all. If you need
Awesome. I'll leave my
money on
number.
hard
Thanks.
money, we got you.
Perfect. Anybody else got anything?
I got a lead and a need. As far as the lead's concerned, if anyone's looking for a buy and holds in the Dallas and Ellis County area, a lot of single family homes ranging from 165 to about 225 for buy and holds. She's my old college professor, but she's a real estate agent and also an investor. I'll put her information in chat. So if you're looking at some buy and holds in the Dallas and Ellis County area, I can give you all that information there. And then I'm looking for an appraiser in Hilo for a potential client. He needs to get an appraisal done in Hilo and was looking for some recommendations there.
Nice. Okay. Appraisers in Hilo. I don't know if Scott's on, but I know yeah, I think he might be jumping on a little late today. But yeah, we'll get back to you, Jovan. We might know some appraisers out there. And then your deal in Dallas, right? Dallas. Who do we got in Dallas? Who we got in Dallas, Kiko?
We have a connection in Dallas. We can introduce you to.
Oh, we do. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Reach out to Alex.
We have two. Yeah. So my information's in the chat already. You just got to scroll up a little bit. My cell and my email. Feel free to call me at any time. Jared, I know I owe you a call. I apologize. We'll talk after this call. Also, hey guys, I'm raising some capital. I talked about it before on another project. I'm looking for 600,000. For every 300,000, it's 1% equity into the project. So project right now, I'm going to do a refi, and I'm going to refi this project at 95 million. So, and that's in phase 2. So after phase 3 is done, we're going to be at about $120 million to $125 million valuation. Not bad to get 1% equity in a project like that for a very small contribution. So
Just
if you
strong borrower too.
yeah, and we're doing over $400 million in loan with this borrower. So if you guys are interested, please reach out to me. I'm looking to get this done by November 15th. I need to have the money in and deployed. So let me know. I'd love to talk to you guys offline about it.
Look at Richie all unmuted and ready.
Everyone was.
Please do, Richie. I miss you.
Okay. All right. If nobody else has anything else, we'll move on to today's special guest. Where we have Jonah Kogen on, and honestly, Jonah is like so dear to our hearts because the first deal I ever did was a wholesale deal with Jonah. That was man, I don't even remember when that was, but ever since then, Jonah's been like a huge lifeline for me and all of us. I've learned everything from how to renovate a property. The first deal we did was a subject to deal. That was interesting, and he and I got to trash the house and demo the house. I'll never forget that because I got to literally like stand shoulder to shoulder with him for like an hour or two, no, a few hours, because it was pretty messy, that house in Ewa Beach, and kind of just pick his brain, and he's just such an awesome guy, and a true mentor and friend to us. And I've learned, I've even learned how to do due diligence on, raw land and development. And that's why I think there's so much that, we can all learn from Jonah here. And so I just wanted to welcome you, Jonah, and thanks again for jumping on. and a little last minute, right? So I'd love to, introduce you to all of our friends here that we've been cultivating, and have you present some, a deal of yours, and take some time for questions and answer, like Q&A after. So welcome, Jonah. Happy Aloha Friday.
Yeah, really appreciate it, man. Always good to see you guys. Yeah, it's been amazing working with Corey here over the years, and seeing him start to where he's at now is pretty incredible. So really stoked for him.
Well, I owe a lot to you. Man. Thank you.
I appreciate it. But yeah, so thanks everybody else for taking the time to jump on the call today. I figured I'd run through a deal that, I'm working on currently, and kind of give you guys some details. Corey, I'm not that familiar, so I would guess, can I share the screen just by clicking that button, share the screen?
Yep, you should be able to share.
Great. All right, hold on one second.
If you can't, let me know, and I might have to make you the host.
Yeah, it may say I have to quit now.
Yeah, make him the host, Alex.
You have the power, Jonah. You have the power.
Right on. All right. So share.
Real quick, can you kind of
Yes.
just try and pay attention if it says on the top of your screen someone's trying to jump in the room? Just let them in, please.
Of course. Yep. Absolutely.
We appreciate you.
Got it. So can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So let's see. Go here.
Hey.
Sorry, I got my Zoom window in the way. So.
Yeah, I guess trick you in sharing the. So we're looking at your PowerPoint, looks like.
Okay. Perfect.
I think if you, how do you go to present? There you go.
And it popped up on the other window, so now it's sharing the wrong window.
Yeah.
I think if you hit F5 in your presentation, it should go full screen.
Part of the issue is I got multiple screens going, so I think it jumped around without doing that. So let me shut that down. I think that'll solve it. Okay. Okay. Now I think we're good. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. Get this window out of the way. All right. So thanks for working with me here while I got that all hooked up. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to do a brief introduction. That's me there with my wife in the middle, and then our two children there on the end on the left. And that other photo is actually an Access Surf photo from recently, just before COVID started, where we take people with physical and cognitive disabilities out in the water and get them surfing. And just an amazing little passion project that I have that I've been involved with for about 10 years on that nonprofit now. So, so the deal that I wanted to talk to you guys about today is going to be a deal out in Ahuimanu in Kaneohe. So just to give you guys a little bit of background on the project, this is a deal that came onto MLS, interestingly enough, and someone else I work with brought it to my attention. And, we kind of teamed up on the deal, got it under contract, and the purchase price was approximately about $2.2 million. And we bought it last year in September. So this property had 4 existing homes on it. As you can see from those 3 houses right there, they're pretty basic, 3-bed, 1-bath, plantation style homes, single wall construction with a carport. And then, we had a 4th home also that was in much rougher shape that we actually ended up selling off early in the process to cash out some money. But
And Nevada was literally.
So anyway, because of the zoning of the property, it was R5, and we actually had the ability to do 4 more houses without completing a subdivision because it was actually just over an acre of land. Under the CPR rules out here in Hawaii, you can do up to 8 on one property without actually going through the subdivision process. So we kind of went through the permitting for the first 4 new houses first, and then we submitted for the subdivision. So there were a total of 9 houses possible on this deal. So this is the house that we sold off early. You know, if I had more time and I wasn't tied into so many projects, I probably would have just taken this on myself. But we did decide to sell this one off early to another investor we work with. And he's actually very happy. He got a good deal on it and ended up selling it pretty quickly. He actually already closed on the resale of this property, made some good money to an end buyer. This is the layout of the site, just to kind of give you guys an idea. So houses D, E, F were existing, and then also G. And then we basically built C, A, B, and H, and then I is going to be the 9th house. But we had to do a lot of the infrastructure improvements here. So run new water, new power, new sewer. We also had to do, you know, some concrete work as far as doing the driveways, the fire access turnaround.
Investors, 40
You know,
invest.
a good number of moving pieces here. So you can see on that next picture on the left, those are the 3 existing houses. And you can kind of see where we added that road there on the right where that excavator is sitting. So in order to meet the fire requirements for the road width, we had to get that up to a minimum of 20 for the number of houses, 20 feet wide. And then you can see the fire hammerhead that we did in the back, kind of getting set up to build the houses back there. So on that hammerhead, take a look at this other picture, you'll actually see that we have 3 houses there at the end of the hammerhead.
And Jonah, can you explain what a hammerhead is?
Sure. So when I go back to this other picture, you'll see that there is, it's basically like if you imagine the shape of a hammer and you see these radius corners, right here. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving around well, but this would be considered the hammerhead right here. And basically the concept of a hammerhead is you want a fire truck to be able to pull in there and turn around as a fire safety concern. So it's something you have to deal with when you're looking at doing new development. They have certain requirements as far as road width and then also fire hydrant access. So the requirements have changed with the new NFPA that they adopted, but basically, you know, we ended up having a fire sprinkler home C, A, and B in order to meet the fire requirements. But we didn't have to actually put in a fire hydrant, which is better. So, and then going back this way, so you can kind of see how the layout is over here and kind of the existing topography. You kind of had a bowl shape to this property. So it was kind of steep to your right, steep to your left. And then where the driveway is, it actually ended up being in the middle. So as you can see, we started to carve out the actual hillside here. So on this left-hand side, where you see that coconut mesh matting, that's where we made our cut in order to do the C house, where the excavator is sitting here. This is going to be the A house. And then on this picture on the right, it's going to be the other house. That's going to be the B house. And
I had the fortunate pleasure to meet you on the site, and I gotta say that cut into the mountain is unreal. Like, how big is that cut into that mountain that you guys have to go? Do you know?
Yeah, so basically the houses are, you know, approximately 25 feet wide, give or take. And then the depth is about 55 feet, give or take.
Wow.
So on the cuts on the right and the left, we had to go back and make that cut that width. So it's probably about 30 feet on each side. And then height wise, we were able to get the slope we needed on the left-hand side. So we didn't have to stabilize it more than just with that coconut matting. But on the right-hand side, we ended up having to do some pretty substantial retaining walls that actually ended up being over 12 feet tall. And actually, it adds a substantial cost to have to do that, but it was the right thing to do over there. We wanted to make sure it was a good house and solid. So, yeah, but they're huge cuts. I mean, we got rid of, I want to say something like just so far, we got rid of probably somewhere in the vicinity of about 50 super dumps worth of material, and they're 20 tons each. So, I mean, we were at I think it was something like 6 or 7 million pounds of dirt already that came out of this site. So fortunately for me, I had some friends. Actually, I think some of that may have gone to Corey at one point, and you guys, right?
Yeah. Thanks for the dirt. Thanks
Yeah.
for the dirt, bro. That
Yeah.
really helped us actually. So
Good.
yeah, we Jonah was he was generous enough to let us borrow some of his dirt that he was taking out of the land, and it actually really helped us. I don't think Layla's on right now, but I know Layla was super stoked because she took some of the dirt to her house, I think.
Yeah, we loaded up her truck. It was fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So well, and then just so everybody, this is this is Jonah's development deal, and development is a whole nother beast, man. It's definitely different than flipping houses. There's a lot more due diligence. It's high risk, high dollar, right? But if you have the experience, I mean, you can make really great money. And I'd love to see some of the economics on the deal as you go on, Jonah. But this is I was on site, and just to kind of stand next to the little mountain that you have to excavate and clear out was pretty insane. Like I've never had to do anything like that before.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was definitely a process for sure. So, it's good to see it all kind of coming together here now, and we are further along. These pictures were probably about I don't know, 6 months ago or so, maybe, give or take. And then these are kind of some pictures as we were going through the framing process, so you can kind of see what's going on and how the property was designed. So the houses we built, I built a few of these at this point. The one on the left and the picture on the right, but it's the left-hand side. That house is a 3-bed, 2-bath, about 1,200 square feet. And then the house on the right is a 4-bed, 2-bath, about 1,400 square feet with a lanai there off the front. And then you can kind of see the picture on the left is again those first two houses, the C and the A, and then this is the B house on the right after we got done making that cut. So you can kind of see how massive that amount of dirt is behind us. And that wall is just, insanely thick and huge. And, we ended up backfilling it 6 feet deep with, crushed rock to make sure that the percolation is good. You don't have too much water pressure against the back of the house pushing on the wall. Huge footings, huge foundation, definitely a beast. And then as we go here, so I just want to give you guys kind of a little bit more of a breakdown of kind of where we're at so far, because as I said, this is a deal that's in progress. But we are making our way out of this project. So just to give you an idea, the 3 existing houses that we had, we sold early in the pandemic just because we wanted to kind of let go of the inventory. I think all of us, in January, February, March, whatever of this year, knew that things were starting to get a little bit weird. So we wanted to make sure that we got out at least of a few to begin with. So we ended up giving people a good deal on those first few houses.
Hey, what's
I
up,
was
man?
happy about it. We had a teacher, a firefighter.
Should you break? Oh, there you go.
Hey,
Yeah, thanks for muting, bro.
Oh, okay, never mind. We're good. Everybody, if you could just take a second to mute yourself so we can get all of Jonah's quality content here. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So anyway, we had 3 existing houses that we kind of sold at a discount. You know, there were definitely comps to have sold those houses higher up, closer to 650 on that street for a very similar house. And I think that at that time, we really just wanted to, like I said, cash out some money, make sure we didn't end up holding inventory for too long. But we were able to get, you know, 2 military buyers in, you know, so a family and then another young military person, and then also a teacher and her family. You know, so it's good to be able to sell at more of an affordable price point and give people some built-in equity. And then also on the existing house that we sold to the investor, you know, he got a good deal as well. He was able to come up with cash early, which definitely helped us. And we also had to get rid of our previous lender. I'm sure a lot of the people on this call, or at least, you know, a fair number that I know of, have worked with the lender that we had. It was a bigger lender there for a while. And early on in the pandemic, they kind of got hammered and their stock dropped dramatically. And, you know, I kind of felt there was going to be a liquidity issue with them. And they had been funding deals for me for years, and it had been a really good experience. But, you know, the writing was kind of on the wall that it was 2007 again, and these guys were going to be in tough shape. So we refinanced them out with some local lenders. So guys that I had worked with before in the past locally that I knew that had cash to kind of recapitalize the project. So we took a little bit of a hit with the financing costs associated with that, but it was the right call because, you know, those guys definitely experienced a lot of problems, and I don't think they're really in existence at this point. So I'm glad I'm not stuck dealing with a third-party company that's now servicing their debt. So we have 3 houses that are just about done, or excuse me, we have 2 houses that are just about done and 2 more that are being framed. 3 of those houses of those 4 are already under contract, and I never had any of them on the market. So we listed 1 house early on in this process and sold 7 of them, or got 8 under contract actually, just off that 1 house. So I think it's just a testament to the value of the houses and the quality of the project. And yeah, a lot of excited people about it. So I'm stoked about that.
And how many total houses, Jonah? Was it 9?
Yeah, so 9 total. The 9th house, we had to do a subdivision action. And if you do a subdivision, it can delay your building permits. So we wanted to get the first 4 new building permits first, and then we wanted to do the subdivision. So the subdivision's in process right now. However, these things take time, and, you know, in the meantime, we're building the other houses, and we're hoping that by the end of the year, the subdivision's approved and we can, you know, keep moving forward and start on that 9th house. But, you know, there's obviously, with anything, there's a lot of hurdles. So, I mean, you know, one big hurdle for this project has been HECO. HECO is a nightmare to work with. For anybody that's done new development here, you could probably verify that. But
so HECO is Hawaiian Electric Company here in Hawaii.
yeah. So, I mean, they charged us $100,000 to bring power to 4 houses, and it's taken them over a year. So we have finished houses. We paid for the surveying. We paid for the electrical engineer, all these things, and gave them $100,000, and they still haven't figured out how to get us power. So it's extremely frustrating, but they have a monopoly and you don't have a choice, you know?
Yeah, right.
And then the other thing too is, like, DPP is not fun to work with either, which is the Department of Planning and Permitting. They also have been a pain in the butt, put it nicely. But, you know, recently for the subdivision, they hit us for park dedication for the existing houses. So I think they've charged us almost $100,000 in park dedication fees as well.
Okay, so explain what the park dedication fee is too, because I don't know if that people are from outside of Hawaii are familiar with that, but I'm sure that they have certain, you know, similar fees that the city charges, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So park dedication is something that was enacted to kind of encourage people to build parks with projects that they were developing. But the problem is that the city doesn't really want you to build the parks. They want you to pay the money. So if you try and build the parks, which I've done probably, I don't know, 5, 6 times early on in doing development, they just make it impossible. And it takes so long to get them to approve it and approve the design and the equipment and all the stuff that's supposed to go on there, that it just doesn't make any sense. It makes more sense to just pay them the money and move on. So they'll assess basically $1 per square foot value to the land. And then they'll come up with a multiplier. So in our case, it was like 350 square feet per house. And then they'll multiply that by the dollar value of the land. And that's how they come up with a park dedication fee. The unfortunate thing is that it'd be one thing if we were supporting parks and the money went to parks and actually got used for that purpose, but it really just goes into a city slush fund of them, you know, basically pissing away the money from what I can tell, which is unfortunate, you know, but it is what it is. You know, you got to pay to play, and that's one of those things.
Yeah. I spoke with Tucker Merrihew, who's out in Portland, and he's a developer out there too, right? And I told him about this fee, park dedication fee, and he said, "Oh, we have something similar. It's a sidewalk fee or something. You gotta pay the city to build a sidewalk." And he was saying it's a let me take your money fee. Basically, it's like a shakedown, you know, from the city. So it's so crazy because like in markets like ours where we're notoriously known for low inventory, you know, and the cost of living is so high, and then here's, you know, guys like you who are trying to build nice houses that are affordable for, you know, we're not building any luxury homes that are going to go to foreign buyers who are just parking their money. You know, it's going to go to, you know, local residents. And then we're hit with all this resistance from the city and you know, HECO and all these companies that are trying to take their cut. You know, all we want to do is build houses and serve the people. But that's why I give you guys like you, Jonah, a lot of credit, because take high risk, right, for to put out nice product out there for the local people. And it's a lot of resistance that you get when you go into the development space, which is one question that I want to ask you later. What made you want to go into development, right? Because I know you're doing it pretty much all from flipping houses to, you know, you also own your own brokerage, right? So, but anyway, so go ahead.
Right on. Thanks, Corey. Yeah, I mean, I got into development because I had started, you know, with renovating houses actually when I was in college and renting apartments to college students to kind of help myself out through college. And that's how I got into the brokerage side of the business as well. And I ended up working from, you know, 2002 until 2005 for somebody else as a broker, and then started my own company in 2005. I think that my goal with development was I saw there was an opportunity for scaling it up. And, you know, I think that at least I've found that you have a limited bandwidth with flipping houses and actively being involved in that process. You know, it's easy to do 1 a year. It's easy to do 2 a year. But, you know, the higher you get in those numbers, the more difficult I've found it to be to manage all those projects. And I haven't been the best at creating a vertical structure personally. You know, I've had GCs that I've worked with and people that I've worked with. And, you know, I think with the development part of it, my hope was that there would be more money to kind of spread around and kind of build that team and scale up. So I met some people out here, you know, during the foreclosure auctions, you know, over 10 years ago, and started working with them. They had a large volume of projects and no money. So I ended up helping them out for years, getting projects entitled and, you know, doing all that groundwork with them and the architects and the engineers. But yeah, it's tough business. I mean, it's a very, very tough business. Hawaii is a very, very difficult place to build. The permitting process is very challenging. You know, there's a lot of moving pieces. And nobody's really got a sense of urgency. So it's challenging. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. I think that it's just it's definitely not a place to be business friendly, you know, but it's beautiful and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world personally. So,
Right.
you know, you got to take the good with the bad, right? You know, we're fortunate that we can be in paradise and still make a living. So,
Right. Yeah. And I totally know what you mean. Like when like flipping houses is great. It's just it's really hard to scale. There's so much the logistics in flipping a house is can get pretty crazy. And whereas you know, development, a lot of it a lot of the work is done kind of on the front end, right? When in the permitting and the planning. Um, and then of course, while the project's ongoing, it can get pretty crazy too. But when you're flipping multiple houses at the same time, you know, you gotta pivot a lot when you're flipping houses. Whereas when you're building something ground up, it's kind of like the guys follow the plan and execute, right? So I see what you mean, and I understand now why what made you go into development, right? Because it's a little bit more riskier, right? When you're buying just raw land and you're just buying dirt, and then you're transforming it into the vision that you had, which is always impressive in my opinion.
right on. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been a good process. It's been a good journey. I mean, I wish I could find more deals like this one that actually made it worth our while. You know, I think we do have a lot of good people now and things are moving pretty well, but I think there's always challenges and, you know, there's always things to work out and details. And, you know, I think that, you know, one of the other challenges here in Hawaii is just the labor market is very limited. You know, I know back on the mainland when I was doing stuff in Boston, your labor pool is tremendous and you have people that really want to work and they really want to work hard. And, you know, there are a lot of people that don't want to lose their job back in Boston where I got started doing this. Whereas out here, it's kind of, you know, it's a different mentality, I think. And I think there, you know, again, there's positives and there's negatives to it, but there's a reason why.
The guys are gone sometimes, right?
So, yeah, so that's kind of a synopsis on this deal. So I don't know if anybody else has any other questions on, you know, the deal or kind of where we're at or anything else in general.
I got one.
Sure.
What was what's your biggest lesson learned from the deal? And two, what was the biggest headache? It could probably be the same thing, but I'm curious about both of those.
You know what? I think that one of the cool things about this deal for me personally is that I've been building a lot more new houses the last few years, and I've been involved in the process a decent amount. But I think that with this one and just the timing and some of the frustrations that I had had with the last general contractor that I was working with prior to this project, I decided to get more hands-on again. And you know, this project definitely has a lot of groundwork and infrastructure stuff, as you can see. So like, it was cool to be working with the guys in the field on a day-to-day basis, doing the road work and the grading and that part of it. I think that that's something that I took a much larger role in this time. That was a really good learning experience and just being very comfortable with it. And we did all the utilities ourselves as far as water and sewer were concerned. And then all the initial grading, compaction, you know, setting up the project so that when the guys actually came in to do the framing and the actual general construction, you know, in my mind, the hard work was already out of the way. You know, we had the building plans and, you know, it's just build the house at that point, which has its own sets of challenges, but it was cool to kind of do the grading work and get familiar with the equipment a little bit more. And, you know, remember that even though I've been doing it for a bit, I can still be out in the field and be productive and helpful. And, you know, just being comfortable with that aspect of things was definitely interesting, especially with COVID-19, where like, I'll be honest, like this was a big project for me personally to be on the hook for. You know, I have someone else I'm working with on it, but they're more of a silent person. So I end up doing the majority of the work, and also the project's in my name, you know, or it's in my LLC. It's not in his. So, you know, I'm kind of on the hook for a lot of things. And early on in the pandemic, it was worrisome, right? It was a question of, oh my God, like, is the government going to pull the plug and like shut us down? Like, are the guys going to be allowed to work? or are we just going to be in a position where they're going to say, you can't do it anymore, like you got to stop? So I think there are a lot of people that I know personally during this time that put things on hold or kind of took a back seat or kind of said, okay, well, I'm going to be in the office and I don't go in the field anymore. And for me, I was in the field every day, seeing the guys, whatever. You do the best you can. I mean, it's just, it was good to continue to be productive and not just give up, because it would have been easy to just say, oh, it's too dangerous or whatever. I got family and kids and stuff, and I don't want people to get sick. And I don't, but at the same time, I respect the guys that want to work and show up every day and be productive and get stuff done, and I think it really, is a testament to the guys that I worked with on this project. And yeah, I mean, that was a cool part. I think that the most frustrating thing in this project has been working with the city on, the permitting, because I still think that they're the worst. And then HECO is just a complete nightmare. I mean, I can't get around the fact that I feel like HECO is just a monopoly, and they know it, and they can abuse you, and you can't do anything about it.
They are a monopoly here. Yeah.
It's insane. And it's like, they can make or break your project, and you have no other options. You can't do the work yourself. You can't touch their wires. You can't provide alternatives. It's a really poor position to be in, and they have no sense of urgency. So like, here we are building all these houses and doing all this work, and we did all the initial work for them, paid for it, did the engineering. And here we are a year later, after hammering them constantly on getting it done, and they still don't have a date for power installation yet. And I can't figure it out for the life of me. Except everybody I know is pretty much in the same boat with them. So it's not like we're getting particularly poor treatment. I think that it's just like the culture. They just don't care. They know they don't care. They don't get in trouble. There's no accountability. It's just a really unfortunate thing. But I was actually talking to somebody there recently, and I guess they had a large audit very recently, and they're talking about firing like 250 people because they've realized how bad it's gotten. But it's Hawaii, so I'll believe it when I see it. Something tells me that the unions aren't going to let it happen because everybody's in the electrical union.
Well, who does the audit? Like, who audits them?
It was the Public Utilities Commission, because they got so many complaints about exactly the stuff that I'm talking about, that I think that they said, okay, well, let's go into it and see exactly what's really going on. And they kind of audited a lot of their processes, and they realized that there's no accountability, and it's,
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? Because like, if they audit and then they fire 200 something people, like, it's gonna slow everything down, right, for a little while. But
I mean, honestly, the people that want to work and are going to be remaining, I think they're going to realize that there's just no more coasting along. You can't pretend you work, a full-time job and work like 2 hours a day.
maybe it'll light a fire under their ass, right? Because something needs to happen. But
I mean, but then again, it's like, I talked to a guy that builds out here as a general contractor, and in Colorado, where his parents live, it takes them, maybe 4 weeks to get permits, usually 2. And they build serious heavy houses for snow loads and all this other stuff. And to get a permit out here, it takes like a year. It's a cultural thing. They just don't care. There's no, sense of, I need to get this done. And it's unfortunate. It's got to change. If we want to help the economy here, that's got to change, because
it's part of the reason why it's part of the reason why, I mean, it could be the reason why the cost of living out here is so high. Is like, because developers don't want to come here and roll the dice. It's like, it's too expensive. It takes too long, and so there's no real like builders other than like DR Horton and like Howard Hughes, that come in and they gentrify and stuff. But I mean, even them, like, it takes a while for them to get going. And I don't know if there's money being, given under the table, because they seem to get permits faster than most people.
They get them 1,000 at a time. That's the benefit, because they get master track. So they get permits in a big bulk, and then they can just go build models, and they're good. But they still struggle with a lot of the same stuff with HECO. I know, it's just, they're the monster. You can't do anything about it, apparently. I hope it changes, though. I mean,
Hey, Jonah, one other thing. Are you okay? Can you highlight some of the numbers on some of the like the house you sold already or any of the projects? I don't think all of them are sold, but maybe the one you sold, just to give us an idea.
sure. Sorry, I thought I went over that, but maybe I
I
need
know
to.
you went over the purchase price, but I don't know if you went over the
Yeah, it
sold
would be
numbers.
just a bird's eye view of like what you purchased the land for, construction costs, and then your expected exit.
There we go. Yeah, so we purchased the land. Can you guys see this again?
Yep.
Yep.
So we purchased the land for $2.2 million in September of 2019. So, when we had the hard money initially, the hard money was running us, I think it's like, I forget whether it was like 2 points, maybe 2 points and
9% or something.
8%, yeah, 9%, something like that. We sold the first 4 houses basically as soon as the project was approved for a CPR. So as soon as it was broken up, we sold those. So that was basically this D house, the E house, and the F house. So each one of those went for about 600 grand. One was a little bit less, this E house, and then the other 2 were about 600. The G house went for about 380. So right off the bat, those sales helped us recapitalize the project, right? But we also spent, a couple $100 grand on the initial infrastructure, as well as the grading work. The equipment's expensive to rent because we rented a lot of the equipment. We had some there that was ours, but some of the bigger stuff we needed to rent. And then, with the new construction, this is a lot of work, obviously, getting set up for this type of project. The houses, ballpark, these 2 that you see on the right-hand side here, when we bought those, we're budgeting those somewhere in that 275 range to 300 grand to build those houses. Actually 275, give or take. I think the one on the left, the 3-bed is 275, 265, and this one on the right, we build for about 285. Now, when you get into doing more of like this larger foundation, right? We had another one that was, a very substantial foundation in the front too. Those foundations get a lot more expensive. So, I mean, that concrete alone, probably ran us another 75 grand between all that additional excavation, the shoring, the steel, the footings, labor, materials, etc. So, on these houses that were more expensive for the foundations, let's say that it added an extra, let's say just ballpark 50 grand to each one of those houses.
Wow.
The same house that would have been, 265 with 315, give or take. And then same thing with the one in the front, that one, which is going to be similar to this model that I pulled up right here. That one in the front, we actually had like a 4-foot thick foundation in order to get it up to the elevation we needed, so we didn't have to walk because this whole thing is shaped like a bowl. So, we raised that foundation. So, just to kind of recap, we sold the 3 existing houses about 600 each, 1 existing house at 280. And then we have 3 other houses under contract right now that we're building. And then we have 2 left that we haven't even started marketing yet. 1 isn't approved because we're subdivision. The other one, I'm still waiting on.
Jonah, real quick.
John Ibarra, can you mute, please?
Click on the 3 little dots.
I think you have controls. You can mute. You have controls. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Can I see if you can cover over?
I'll stop the share. Can you I'm not sure I can.
No, no, give me control. Or you can go up.
Are you in control again, Alex?
No, you gotta click on the three little dots next to my face. Oh, there he goes.
I muted him. I figured it out.
Yeah, okay, we're good then.
Nothing personal, John. Sorry. Yeah.
He can flip houses and he can mute people. Good job.
Right.
Hey, I
So-
got another question for you too. Because I don't think really too many of us on this call have done any developments. What would be the one thing that you would give advice to anyone looking to get into developments, as you know, like this is something that you need to look out for and you need to be very aware of before you take that step? And maybe even if it's finding the right mentor or whatever it was that you did that really led you down the path of success for this.
Right on. So, you know, it's a good question, and I think everybody has their own approach, right, as to how they might go about doing it. I think that in my life, I've taken maybe a different path, which has served me well, but it's probably not right for everybody. Where, you know, the people that I've worked with, I thought were good people, like as far as the development side of things were concerned, and they appeared to be good people. They had a lot of deals going on, a lot of projects in the pipeline, which I thought was incredible, right? I mean, you know, I don't know too many people that were in Hawaii when I started working with the guys I started working with that could honestly say they were involved in over 200 deals at a time. You know, I mean, that's a big number in Hawaii. You got D.R. Horton, Castle and Cook, and maybe one or two like Stanford Carr and a couple of the other big guys, but like there really aren't that many. So my thought with those guys personally was, I'll get involved. I'll do a lot of the legwork and a lot of the due diligence and, you know, contract negotiation, design stuff, the architectural engineering coordination, all the work with DPP and the consultants, and really just dive in. And, you know, I was hoping that they were going to show me the ropes and kind of give me an idea. And the longer that I worked with them, the more I realized that, you know, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, right? So some people are good, like big picture people, and they're really good at like having that initial idea, developing relationships and getting the ball rolling, right? And then there are other people that aren't as good at that as a strength, but their strength is like the follow through, the completion, all the details, making sure stuff continues to keep happening. And what I found with the guys that I worked with, they were really good at the front end, and they were really good at selling the vision initially. And then they just kind of threw their hands up in the air and said, okay, I'm not dealing with it anymore. And then when it came to like being a good person, they didn't really fill that either, and ended up turning a lot of people off and causing a lot of problems for them financially. I mean, when you brought up that deal in Cocoa Palms, Alex, I mean, they were the guys that won that Cocoa Palms deal. So like, you know,
Yep.
I know that lender. I know they, you know, did a horrible thing with a lot of people. And like, fortunately for me, because I worked with them for so long, I learned a ton. And because I didn't have any, I was never the one that was in charge of like the funding, the financing, the investors' money, things like that. You know, I was always just adding value, and I never took anything off the table. My end was always supposed to come on the back. It didn't help me out financially, right? But with their investors, I mean, you know, those guys are getting sued right and left at this point, and I'm not involved. And it's not because I wasn't involved, it's because I had nothing to do with that part of it. And like, it was a very clear line where like, I was the one doing all the work. They were the one taking the money, and then it was disappearing. I mean, you know, so
I
don't
saw
know.
you, Jonah, as like the engine, you know, like those guys, they're like you said, like they're like the navigation, right?
Yeah.
And like, but you were the one that was getting it done. And it benefited you because you learned so much, right? Not really from them, but just because you had to learn it. And I appreciate you taking the time to teach me, you know, because it helped fast track, you know. We don't do developments nearly the size that you do, but for us to take down like a 4-house or a 6-house, you know, development, wouldn't have been able to do that without you, you know. And I want to ask you, like, what would you say? Because there's a lot of people on the call here that, some of them are just getting started and some of them are more experienced and do development. But what would you say? Because I see it as the natural progression of someone's career, kind of like mine, is like maybe you start wholesaling, right? You start out wholesaling and then you move on to like flipping houses. Because as you master wholesaling, you're mastering the acquisition side, right? And then you can kind of cherry pick which deals you want to flip, on your own or so. But then from flipping houses, then usually it's like, okay, now maybe you go to multi-family and, start building a portfolio for cash flow and, financial freedom. But some people take the route of going into development as well, which is like, I feel is like another level up because you can make a lot of money in development, but it's a lot more, you need a lot more experience and it's a different game, right? So like, what do you agree with that? It's like that natural progression. And then also like, I know you went kind of both ways, right? Like you've always had your portfolios and your multifamily properties that you have on the East Coast and stuff. But what made you like really want to go into development? Was it because of like the potential profit on the back end and seemed scalable, like you said, like, or did it just because like, you just happened to have the opportunity to learn?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things for me personally. I mean, I really enjoyed, flipping houses early on. I like being involved in the renovation process. And I mean, I was used to doing the work myself with guys, so like to me, that was an enjoyable thing for a long time. And then I think that like when 2008 came, I kind of realized after coming out to Hawaii for like a few months a year to see friends during like a slow time business wise, that I was kind of blowing it. And it was like, I can always make money. That's the easy part. But the hard part is like finding a balance and a quality of life. And I think that it's at that point that I kind of decided, you know what, rather than just focus on, making money and for 9 months a year and then taking 3 months off, I got to find like a real life, So that's when I moved out to Hawaii, and I was still doing a lot of the same stuff. I bounced back and forth for a few years until I met my wife and still surf and work, whatever. But I think it really just depends on the person. I mean, like there was a time in my life personally where like, I was very happy making $100,000 a year and taking working a few hours a day. I mean, that was really nice for early on when I was younger and I just wanted to go surf and hang out. I mean, that's a great life for that moment in time, right? And then I think that the more serious I got about, my wife and my life and just continuing to progress, that's when I decided, you know what, like I enjoy flipping houses. I can do that, but I have a greater potential in this other thing because of the scalability. And that's what kind of pushed me more towards development. I had one project that I had bought at foreclosure, like a condo, and I had a interest in the land next to it as well as part of that acquisition. And, for years I negotiated with them to buy that land because I thought I knew the right people back in Boston to get it so that I could build there. I finally worked the deal out, and that was like my first ground up project, and with that project, I mean, it was a 5-story building in Boston. And I can honestly say that like, even though we did all the architectural engineering, the coordination, everything, the contract negotiation, I still own that property today. And I've never set foot in that property once, and it's the biggest, most expensive property I own personally. And I have never been there inside. So, it's a little bit odd, and there are points in my life where like I would never expect to say something like that. And at the same time, it's like, why would I go? Like I saw the pictures, the rent gets collected every month. I've never had a vacancy. It makes me good money. The bank's happy. My property manager I've known for 15 years. He does great. I don't have any of the headaches, And I think that when I finished that project, probably it was a little over 4 years ago now, 5 years ago, it's like, that is the ultimate, is being able to do it that way in my mind, but it's not always like that. And like, honestly, I don't find a lot of projects that are like that. Like I haven't had another one since that worked out that well in that way. I've done other rehabs from afar that have worked out, but the market shifted, and the market that I was in, it's just not possible. The numbers don't work. And, you know, the stuff that's in Hawaii now is a different animal. I mean, it's a totally different ball game, you know, and I think there are a lot of people that are here very successful doing a lot of things, whether it's flipping. But if you're going to get into development, and even if you're flipping houses, I think the biggest lesson that I've learned over all these years is that the people you work with are going to make or break you and your business, hands down. You know,
100%. You got to have a great team, right? And just like you said, like you have to know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, right? Like for me, I can say my strengths, like I'm kind of more like, I'm not the details guy, you know, and a lot of people on this call know that. Sometimes I gotta hear things like more than once. I mean, you can ask Ashley if guys are nuts, but and I'm not, and I'm not good at direction. You know, like you can ask Kiko, but I can't see the end zone. You know, in some things, and like I'll have a great idea or something, or I think it's a great idea, but I'm not the guy to really like be the person executing. You know, so like understanding where your strengths are, like I guess it took me a while to really admit that, you know, and then have to bring people on to really help me and you know, kind of get the vision to reality with, you know, the right team and stuff. So I think that's like huge detail that I think a lot of people don't understand. It's like you have to, it's not just the right team, but the chemistry of the team and the culture is just as important as anything else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And good people too. Don't try and save a couple bucks.
Good people means everything. I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, one more, guys.
And we're Gory's good people because he needs us.
Yeah. I do need you.
We need you too, bro.
I don't need that hair though. What's going on with your hair, bro?
It's a special day, man. We got lined up today.
We're all set. Do you like it?
Wow.
I've never seen that before. Anyways.
Hey, let's open it up to the room. Guys,
let's
is
open
someone
up
in
the
the room have a question for Jonah? I know someone's got to have a couple. I mean, this guy's a legend in Hawaii, and he's helped us a lot. So we'd love him to help you as much as possible. So please, you know, take yourself off mute and ask away.
And honestly, everything I've learned really is actually came from Jonah. You know, so Jonah, you've been huge for like my growth in my career and me not making mistakes. And Jonah is also on the board, our advisory board for our fund. So he's one of those guys, like before we do something really crazy, you know, we always give him a call. You and Cheryl, you know, like you guys are, yeah, we'll have Cheryl on again one day. But
thanks, Corey.
Actually, too, if you don't mind, Jonah, maybe we'll bring you back on to talk about like subject 2, you know, if you don't mind. The first deal that we did was actually eye-opening for me because it was a subject 2 deal, you know, and
Sure.
we were just talking about sub 2 last week, so it'd be great to have you back on. And I didn't know that you didn't step foot in your property that you built out there in Boston. In fact, when I was in Boston, I was right down the road, right? So I was gonna go check it out. Now I'm regretting that I didn't make the time because that would have been funny that I saw it and you haven't seen it.
I looked at it from the outside. I'll be honest. I looked from the outside. I haven't set foot inside. It just, you know.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's amazing actually. But okay, does anybody have any questions for Jonah? It doesn't even have to be on this deal. It could just be like Jonah has a wealth of knowledge. So please, now's our shot. You know, let's
hey,
make
Jonah, just had a quick one. Wanted
Sure.
to ask if I can just contact you sometime in the very near future. We're about hopefully weeks away from breaking ground on our 5-unit build
Oh, congratulations, Richie. That's awesome, man. Where's that?
out in Makaha.
Oh, right on. Nice, man.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Just
Exciting. Yeah, right on.
I don't know if that's exciting. I'm kind of scared, but yeah,
All right, man. I know you work hard. You'll figure it out.
yeah.
If there's anything I can help with, let me know, man. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of moving pieces. So hopefully you guys are all lined up. You got permits?
That's the next thing. The subdivision and CPR stuff just all in now. So our TMKs should be up and recorded pretty soon. So
Yeah. That's one thing, like with the CPR, the TMKs typically don't come out until much later, just to give you a heads up on that. So like,
Yeah.
even if your CPR gets approved, it'll take them a year plus to get you the official CPR numbers. So just make sure you're working with the right title company that knows how to work through that. Otherwise they'll stop you dead and they'll be like, oh, we can't do title insurance because you don't have your CPR numbers yet.
Yeah.
So
Who
yeah,
do
I
you
think
recommend,
the CPRs that we're getting is for the subdivision. So that one is, I guess, our first plan of attack is at least get that so we can get started on one of the lots.
Yeah, it's a little unique because Richie's one is like a subdivision with a CPR, right? So, yeah.
make sure you get your permits first and then do your subdivision.
Oh,
The subdivision was kind of done when we bought the land,
Okay, that's
but
good.
it wasn't recorded properly. So that's what our battle was.
Oh, got it. Right on. Yeah,
Who do
if
you
there's
recommend
anything I
for-
can help, let me know.
Will do.
What do you
Thank you.
recommend for title, Jonah?
It all depends, right? I mean, so like there's different reasons to work with different title companies under, you know, certain circumstances. So like when you're buying, it's always like, in my experience, you know, TG is the most thorough here in Hawaii. So, you know, it's always good to have them when you're acquiring a property. So you kind of have them doing their best title research and figuring out what your potential issues are, what needs to be figured out. But they can also make it very difficult on the resale at times because they're so anal about so many things. So, you know, I mean, I've really enjoyed working with, you know, Pam and those guys over at First American. I mean, you know, I guess she's not First American anymore and she's over at First Hawaii now or whatever. But back when she was at First American, I used to work with them a lot. And then recently I've been working with Premier a lot, just because we kind of have a really good relationship with them now. They have been helping us out with a variety of different things. And so that's been helpful for us. They've been helping us with this Ahui Manu project for the most part, but you know, it depended upon the situation. I've worked with pretty much every title company. It's just a matter of bandwidth. You know, that's the other thing is that a lot of the title officers, they work super, super hard. Like if we could just get DPP to work at like 25% of the hardness that like all the good title officers work at, they'd be pushing out, you know, 10 times the number of permits. But anyway.
I agree. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? I see Chris Wachendorf's on. How's it, Chris? Great to see you on, man. It's been a while. I know Chris has a project that he's gonna be doing development on, right? You want to talk to Jonah about that?
Yeah. I had two questions, Jonah. If you have any advice on how to find the right contractor for a multi-house build, 6-house. And then the other question is, have you ever done any creative, build opportunities? So I'm debating not doing the build myself, but having a contractor, market it to the open market and build custom homes for people. And then I just collect on the back end when they're done and people are in it and it's all sold. Anything like that.
Interesting. So where's your project that you're looking at or that you're doing?
I'm right below Tripler.
Right below. Okay. I'm trying to think, did we talk about this before? I feel like we may have, right?
We have.
That's what I thought. Okay, right on.
You said the slope is too expensive, but we're getting around it.
That's great, man. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah. I've done a lot of those types of projects with this slope. So, I've gotten jammed up with DPP on it before. So I wish you the best of luck. As far as the creative part of it with the build, I mean, your project, from what I recall, has a lot of site work, right? So like, you're not going to use necessarily the same general contractor to build the houses as you are to do the site work. So what you really need first is you need somebody that's got a lot of experience doing site work And, you know, the tough thing with site work when you have a lot of material to move is that it's not a very easy thing to measure or to cost out, right? So like site work is one of those things where, like, you know, I've seen guys that are good at site work and they do it incredibly quickly and efficiently and it just gets done, right? But here in Hawaii, like, it's, you know, already the end of October, right? So we're coming into the rainy season. So the challenge that I've seen over and over again is you get a general contractor or a site contractor to do your site work, and then because of rain delays, equipment expenses, the way your contract's written, you know, your site work contractor can be put in the driver's seat pretty easily, where it can get very expensive for you very quickly without a lot actually getting accomplished. And I'd say your best bet is to find somebody that's a good site contractor that, like, is willing to work with you on a more flexible basis, where it's like, hey, listen, you know, we're going to go on a per truck basis, or, you know, one thing that I found is when I give people too much control is when you lose control of a lot of your expenses. And like site work is one of those things where, like, you know, I've made the mistake of trusting people in the past on one project and then expecting them to finish it, and then they bailed, right? And they didn't finish it, and they took money up front too much, and I didn't keep a tight enough grip on the expenses early, and it definitely cost me, you know, over $100,000 easy. So, you know, if you're going to get a good site contract, you know, make sure it's somebody that you're working with and you understand how they're billing you out. You know, ideally, you know what their machine expenses are, you know what their trucking expenses are, right? And if you know those two things and you get to start to figure out their liability, general overhead, that stuff, you can start to manage it a lot easier. If you just start getting used to cutting checks without any real, like, substantiation for why you're cutting them. And I know that sounds weird, but at the same time, like, with a project like yours, you have a lot of excavation, right? I mean, like, how many cubic yards do you think, or tons?
Well, the only good thing is it's going to be, all the cuts going to be kept on property. So we're just going to use it as fill for we call it the garden, but it's, yeah.
Yeah. So do you have an NPDES for that?
I don't know what that is.
So the NPDES is the National Pollution and Discharge and Effluent Standards. So like when you get into like a bigger project like yours, they're going to require you to do an NPDES, which basically makes sure that you're not, you know, spreading material around all over the place and causing a big mess. And it's going to require a lot more oversight. So you just, you know, managing it, like, you still have a lot of material to move, right? So like when you're doing excavation, you want to touch the material once if you can, right? And get in the excavator, pick it up and move it to wherever it needs to be. You know, as soon as you start picking it up, moving it, and then moving it again, and then moving it again, and then moving it again, that's when it gets super expensive. And I know it sounds like something you would just assume, but like, you'd be amazed at, like, the guys, if they're just hourly, if you're not paying attention, they'll pick it up and they'll move it here. And then they'll pick it there, and then they'll move it there. You know, and it's like just an inefficient motion. And all of a sudden, because they moved it twice, it costs you twice as much money. So like your goal with site work is to touch once and get it out or get it moved, you know, get it into a larger loader and wherever you need it. You know, that's going to be the big thing. And wrap your head around the machine expenses and control it as much as possible, and watch every day, you know? So it's it's going to be a lot of work, but nothing's impossible. I mean, like I said, you know, you saw the stuff we moved on that other one. I mean, you can definitely do it, but, you know, I was there a lot to see that happen, because I know guys that do that type of work. When they're doing that type of work, they basically have to price it out as taking them twice as long as it's going to, you know? So like site work guys, their margins are typically very, very large on their projects. You know, as like a builder of a house, I would say on like a small side, you might have an 8% margin on profit. And on the larger side, from what I've seen, like 20%. But like the site work guys, they'll put in, 40, 50, 60% margins. That's just the way they run their business out here. And that's why you got guys like Goodfellow and Royal and, some of those big site work guys that they just kill it, but
Wow.
it's a very expensive proposition if you're not on it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Good luck. It's going to be an awesome project when you get done.
Yeah. If anyone has any other,
I'm sorry.
It's such good information. Those
Oh.
are some good nuggets.
Oh,
yeah, the development side, I got so much. I didn't know, site work, they get big margins. That's good to know though. Like, I had no idea. And the development side is it's so interesting because there's so much to learn. There's so many, I guess, nuances that really aren't involved in the house flipping space, which a lot of us are in, right? Or like the syndication space of, taking out multifamily and buy and hold. But Jonah, what would you say is a benefit for anyone that's thinking about doing like whether it's small or large development project? Like, what would you say is the plus side of development?
I would say the plus side is if you have your game plan down and it's mapped out really, really well and in detail, and you're able to somewhat control your expenses, the scalability of it can be very beneficial. I think that the challenges that I've seen are when somebody goes in on the early end with margins that appear to be good, and then they aren't big enough, and it just makes the deal not worth doing anymore. So I think educating the people that you're buying the property from about all of the challenges and identifying those challenges and expenses early on is super important, right? Because I guarantee you, if you're going to build in Hawaii and you haven't built in Hawaii from ground up yet, there are going to be so many expenses that sneak up on you that you would have never expected, or things that you would never expect. You just really have to make sure that you do your due diligence and you're buying it right and getting the right price, so you have plenty of room in the event that something pops up. I mean, just between the issues that I've seen, people that thought they knew what they were doing with sewer capacity, crazy site work expenses, HECO, park dedication, DPP delays, subdivision versus building permits, choosing the wrong architect or draftsman or engineering company. I mean, all of these things can have a dramatic impact on whether your project takes 2 years or your project takes 10 years and you're broke, and I've seen it go both ways. I mean, it's sad to say, but I've seen guys do it over and over and over again, so you just got to be super careful. My personal recommendation is that, if you're going to do development in Hawaii, you should be really good at actually building a house and renovating a house in Hawaii and getting used to the permitting process first, right? If you're used to being in Hawaii and buying a house and just going for it and flipping it and not pulling permits, that's great. I mean, I've done it. I wouldn't fault anyone for going that route. But it's not going to help you long-term to deal with the challenges of actually going to get the permits, understanding how DPP works and all the intricacies and the departments and the moving pieces and e-plans and, all the personalities that come with it. I mean, there's just a tremendous amount on the back end that people don't see, that you're never going to pay someone else enough money to do that work for you and get it done in a reasonable period of time, and I've seen the guys that were big that, hired these other companies to do it. I've seen projects that had $500,000 in them for architectural and some of the engineering stuff. They still don't get their permits. It's and that's with big firms. I mean, it just, it's a really, really big struggle and problem. And, most of these guys are accustomed to billing a lot up front, because they're like, oh, look, I did all the drawings, all this tough stuff's out of the way. And then it's really that back and forth and that revisions and going through that process with DPP that is the time consuming part of it. It's easy to draw a set of plans, in my opinion. That's not the hard part. Get it through DPP and coordinate with water, sewer, zoning, all these other agencies, traffic, subdivisions, coordinate all that stuff. And you're going to start to get a much bigger picture about what it takes to actually get a project approved. Because on paper is one thing, but actually approved is something entirely different,
Jonah, real quick, how long is your escrow, your due diligence period? Because I know for finding out sewer capacity, that can take a long time. So do you wait to close out your due diligence period once you hear back for sewer capacity, or do you take the leap if the deal's good enough?
No, that's one thing that I have seen more than once that comes up with people that you have to identify on the early side. So like if I'm going to do due diligence on a new project, like a real apartment building, subdivision, something like that, 90 to 120 days sounds long, but when you're working with the city and county of Honolulu, that's really what it takes to get a lot of these questions answered. Now, I've done due diligence periods that were shorter. I'll start there and then I'll work backwards, so if a deal looks good after 45, 60 days, I might have a good idea. Sewer, I tend to get good answers on more quickly these days. So it's like that one's gone down to less than 45 days. But there are other issues that you want to make sure you identify off the bat, but sewer is definitely a really big one. The zoning part of it obviously is a really early on thing you should look at, but there's a big list of things that you need to look at when you're doing, new projects and bigger projects. The code's changing pretty regularly too. I mean, there was talk for a long time about that Bill 7 and all the great things that Bill 7 is going to bring, and this is going to be wonderful. But unfortunately, here we are over a year. I think we're almost 2 years into it, and they haven't approved a single permit under Bill 7.
I didn't know
it was
that.
supposed to be fast tracked. Within 90 days, they said you were supposed to have a permit. 2 years later, not one single person has one. So, it just, things take a long time in Hawaii. So if you're going to do a deal, get the longest due diligence period possible and work your way through it. If you're not 100% comfortable with what you're getting into, don't do it. There are so many deals that'll look good on the surface. And then those are the people that end up running into serious problems or walking away or getting foreclosed on because they didn't take the time to do it up front,
So how much do you invest into your due diligence on average?
It's going to depend. I mean, these days I'm really familiar with the process itself. So a lot of the work I'll do personally, and it's more a matter of time than anything else. They're when I was learning the process, I think I used to run a lot more by other people to kind of see what I was missing. But these days I'm pretty comfortable with it for the most part. And I've seen what is successful and what isn't. So it's really just a matter of being willing to get your hands dirty and actually make sure you're covering those bases. So write the letter to Board of Water for water, submit your sewer application for sewer, write your letter into DPP to do a zoning reference check on the property and see if they have any secret files that they're able to share with you at that time. And occasionally things come up. I mean, we did a due diligence on one in Kailua recently that on the surface looked like a great deal. And we wrote the letter in, spent $300 to submit the letter to the city, got the response, and the response we got from the city blew the whole thing apart. There were probably 20 people looking at this deal. What's that?
What did they say?
Oh, they basically said that this project was a 4-lot project. And it looked on the surface like you should be able to build 4 houses on these lots, one on each lot, because that's how it usually works. The deed didn't say anything about not being able to There were a lot of other things that, you know, looked like it should have been good. Sewer capacity was good. Water should have been good, not a problem. But after speaking with the city, because these were like remnant parcel deeds that were close to an SMA, and it didn't show up in the title work, but it did show up when we talked to the city, they wouldn't let you build on 2 of those lots. So basically, instead of buying 4 lots, you were basically buying the ability to build on probably 2 or maybe even 1. I forget off the top of my head, but you could have definitely gotten 1 house. But like, it's one thing to spend $1 million to build new on 4 lots. It's another thing to spend $1 million to build 1 new house on the same property. You know,
Okay. Yeah. So did somebody buy that?
not yet, but they will. Somebody absolutely will, and they will definitely lose money, and they will totally get caught off guard.
Yeah, hopefully they don't.
There's no,
Hopefully, it's nobody on this call, but yeah.
so it's not, there was no CCNR, anything in the title report. And so how is that even legal? How's that even?
So you wouldn't have known unless you've written that letter.
You have to write the letter to the director of DPP, request an information request.
Oh my God.
Zoning information request?
Yeah, I'd have to look up the actual like technical name for it, but it's something along those lines. So you basically submit a letter to request from DPP for a verification of zoning and any other files relevant to the property that may impact the developability, you know, or the number of houses.
You're not hiring an attorney to review that, you're reviewing it yourself?
Yeah, I'm drafting that myself, submitting it. There's like a fee you have to pay them. You got to send in a check for a couple $100, and you know.
For them to
If you
reach
weren't experienced, would you say like you invest 3,000 into your due diligence or 10,000 into your due diligence?
Well, here's the thing that is the big question mark, right? Is early on, you may not be as comfortable with what your costs would be on the back end, right? So like for me, because I have the experience now, I'm able to look at a project from a different lens than somebody who has less experience. So like in the past, I might have hired an engineer or an architect to give me an idea on, you know, what the build costs may be, or what some of the construction may have been, or what the cut may be, or, you know, all these other things, just so you can start to identify your expenses and really get a better idea on what it would take. You know, and like, again, an attorney to do like your due diligence. Like I've had attorneys do that stuff before and like review things and take a look and kind of poke around for me. But what I've come to find more and more is that like, once you start to do it yourself, you're very capable of doing a lot of it. You just have to really be careful about the stuff that's big site work. I mean, I think that, you know, I can't stress that enough, that like the site work is the thing that is a make it or break it on most deals, you know, because the cost to build a house is the cost to build a house for the most part, right? Your 2x4s are your 2x4s, which they doubled this year at one point. Now I think they're back down again, but like for the most part, you know what those fixed costs are going to be to build most houses if it's not a custom house, right? What you don't know is how much is it going to cost to excavate that, you know, mountain or hill, remove the material, truck it out, dispose of it, and then start to build your structural foundation for the rest of that house, your walls, etc. And I think that's the thing that, like, if you're not familiar with that part of the construction process, and let's say you think a deal looks good because you might make $100,000, well, you could lose that $100,000 right off the bat because you didn't plan accordingly for site work. So if you're less experienced with the site work and you just say, oh, this house costs 300 to build here, it should be 300 there, I just have to dig out a little bit of the hillside, you know, you may not recognize that additional cost. And I think that's a really critical part of it. So that's the thing, like, you know, make sure you understand that. And then sewer too, you know, it may sound silly, but like sewer has to go down, right?
Yeah.
You need a slope going down to do a gravity feed sewer system.
Yep.
And that may sound like, yeah, okay, but like if you don't know your inverts in the street and you're in a downslope property, and you have no way to get your sewer up, you need a sewer lift station. And if you have a big project with a sewer lift station, it needs a grinder and a pump and advanced engineering and all this planning and all this other stuff. Problem. You know, water pressure too. If you don't know to check your water pressure, I got a guy next to me right now that can't build a house. He's got 20 PSI water pressure. You can't build with 20 PSI water pressure. You're never going to get a permit, right? Now, I have 100 PSI at my house. We're next door. But I knew to look at where the meter was and test the pressure before I bought it. My meter's up above, right, Corey? You remember when we went and checked that out early on? The guy next to me, his meter is below on this street, and he has no water pressure, and he's owned the property for years, can't build anything. Same thing with the guys next to me over there. They bought $4 million worth of property at the same time that I did, and they have not even broken ground yet, and it's been years, and they haven't broken ground.
What can they do?
They're stuck. They have water issues, they have sewer issues, they have rockfall mitigation issues, they have all kinds of things that they didn't know they were going to have to deal with because,
especially if you're on a slope, right? And like, one thing I am so grateful for, and now I look at things totally different ever since Jonah, you started teaching me the development side, and you don't think about that when you're flipping a house. You don't think about all the infrastructure that had to go in, all the planning, all the site work, you know? So now, like when you look at a house or a subdivision of some sort, especially if it's like Hillside, like it's impressive to think all the systems that had to go in to put that house there and make it functional for someone to live in, functional and safe, you know, like from water to wastewater to, you know, the sewer lines. Like you don't realize that sometimes you got to check to see if there's capacity for the poop and all the waste, right? Like, I mean, because if there's not enough,
right? I mean, you got to know where the fire hydrants are. You got to know the distance to the fire hydrant.
Water pressure, can, like, even for fire, right? Like they changed the fire code on us, so they were telling us that we had to put sprinklers in 2 of our homes that are, you know, the deepest in. So either that or put a hammerhead like right in the middle of the development, which we ended up going that route instead of going the sprinkler route. And it's just, there's so much there's so much behind the site work and the infrastructure that I have so much respect for now. When you look at like just a basic neighborhood, like how much planning and infrastructure that had to go into to put these houses here, right? It's pretty amazing when you think about it. And I never would have thought of it, you know, until I started doing development and learning, you know, from you. And I remember the first day you took me down to the Department of Planning and Permitting. You know, you took me, okay, first you go to wastewater, fill out this application, and this is to make sure there's enough capacity to handle another, you know, house of waste, right? Like poop. Like I would have never thought of that. And then you got to go to the water, you know, board of water, to make sure there's enough pressure, water pressure for fire, right? And so I appreciate all that you've done, Jonah, for us, and thank you so much for your time. I mean, we're going on like almost 2 hours now. I really appreciate it. And
all good.
I know that you have so much to offer, because I learn every time when I'm sitting down with you, you know, so I learned a couple more nuggets here. So I really appreciate your time. And
Thanks for having me, Corey. You know, always a pleasure working with you, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. And if anybody on the call wants to like reach out to you, Jonah, like what is the best way? Whether you want to hear more about development or invest with you, because honestly, guys, there's a few people who I put, you know, trust in that I would invest in. But hands down, Jonah is the guy. So if, you know, I don't even know if Jonah needs capital or anything, what you really need, Jonah, or if you're looking for deals. But when I'm done, you know, if I'm done, you know, Jonah will probably be done before I am. But you know, I'm gonna invest, you know, and just live off the interest. I would invest in a guy like Jonah. So just putting that out there, and I don't say that about many people, you know. So I would what's the best way for people to reach out to you, Jonah?
Yeah, feel free to, you know, give me a call, shoot me an email. I mean, I'm a pretty open person, and you know, I do my best to help people as best I can. You know, obviously some days are busier than others, and but yeah, it's always good to meet new people and talk, and yeah, if there's ever anything I can do, feel free to reach out to me. I had my website up there earlier, but easiest way to reach me by email is just jonahkogen@gmail.com, or my cell's right there on the website. You can always feel free to call my cell too. And I'll get back to you.
I would definitely encourage folks to reach out to Jonah if you have any questions about almost anything real estate, because he's a broker, he's a developer, he's a lender, he's a private money investor, he is a partner. He's partnered on deals with Corey and I. Like, I mean, he literally has a little bit of everything, which if you ever find yourself in a place where you just go, I wonder what I should do, Jonah's a great resource, because Corey and I don't have that much information. We just try to pretend we do. But Jonah, I mean, you look at his resume and we're like, every time we're at lunch, we have nothing to share because he's always got so much.
Well, really, all we're doing is like, we're just calling Jonah. Hey, Jonah, what are we doing this?
Yeah, you know, most people say go Google it. We just go Jonah it.
There you go. You guys are too flattering. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, seriously though, like Jonah, you helped us out a lot. We've learned so much from you. This is a little bit higher level than most of our calls. So if you guys have questions, like feel free to email Jonah. His time is very valuable. I'd say that. He's a family man, and I respect that. He's the one that told me that return on your time, right, Jonah? It's not just ROI, right? It's what's your return on your time. So, and I love the fact that like, usually right at like 5 p.m. if it's a weekday, like no calls, right? From you.
I try to tune it out. I really do.
Yeah. I gotta work on that. But
takes time, my friend. Takes time.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Thanks everybody. I know we're almost at 2 hours already. So we'll see you guys in the Facebook group if you have anything. And then otherwise we'll have a great Aloha Friday, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jonah.
Jonah, real quick, I think you still
Thanks, guys.
control. So can you make one of us the host so we can end the
How do I
recording?
do that? I'm not.
Same thing like you muted. Go to the 3 dots and click on me or Corey, and just say make host.
3 dots. 3 dots. Like on your thing. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Don't mute me, but make me the host.
You want me to put you in the waiting room, right? That's what you said?
Yeah.
Exactly. That was it.
Did I get it?
All
Jonah, go
right.
Huskies.
There you go. Absolutely. Northeastern guy, yeah.